Good morning, everybody. We're on the 70th segment of the Think Before You Speak series, the laws of Shemirat Halashon, with clarity, a few stories. Le'ilun Nishmat, the great Chafetz Chaim, Zechet Tzadik Lebracha, as well Le'ilun Nishmat, Luz Aliza Bat Henriette, and her children that passed in the fire. Ruach Hashem Tenichenam Began Eden. These halachot should be a great zechut for all those in Klal Yisrael who need Yeshuot and Refuah Shalema. These halachot should be a great zechut for our Bnei Chabura that sit and learn every morning from 9 to 11 in our morning kollel. That's Baruch Hashem doing amazing. And as well, these halachot should be a real zechut dedicated for the Shmira Ma'alya Nahatzlacha Nesiat Chen for Chaim Davidov ben Chayesar. Okay, today's halachot titled The Class Terror. Oh boy. So it goes like this. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that a bunch of men walk into shul, standing around waiting for minyan to start. Could you imagine like a Landau's or a place that has a minyan that's constantly every half hour or every 15 minutes starting another arbit or another mincha? So there's a few minutes of a wait sometimes until they start the next minyan. So our story today takes place where there's a few men sitting around, talking, waiting for a hazan to go up to begin, and one man turns to the other and says, Shalom Aleichem, what's your name? And he says, you don't recognize me? Our kids are both in the same class in yeshiva. And he says, oh, really? I know you look familiar. So what is your name? And he says his name. Upon hearing the guy's name, he says to him, oh, you're Mr. So-and-so. You're Mr. Weiss. I heard from my son about your kid. Your kid is the terror of the class. But you look like such a nice guy. You look like such a Baal Midot. I didn't expect such a terror to be the son of such a sweet Baal Midot father. Now you're laughing. You don't think people talk this way. People talk this way all the time. That's the reason why we're still in Galut. But that's what he said to him. He says, oh, you're Mr. Weiss. You're so-and-so's father. Wow. I heard from my son that your kid is the class terror. I can't believe. Such a nice guy like you. I wouldn't expect a son like that. Now, at that moment, when he says to Mr. Weiss that you're the father of the terror of the class because I heard from my son that your son is the class terror, he was just over. He just transgressed rechilut. He just told Mr. Weiss something that he heard from his son about negative his own son. So now what's going to happen? Obviously, Mr. Weiss is going to feel, number one, terrible. So he's over on the Avera of embarrassing Mr. Weiss for telling him something about that, about his son. But he's also over on Rechilut, because now Mr. Weiss, number one, is going to hate this man's son for saying that about his son. And between me and you know what's going to happen next. He's going to go home and tell his son that he heard from the other guy's son that he is the class terror. What do you think is going to happen next day in school? Where do you think tomorrow's recess is going to end up between these two boys? Hey, I heard that your dad told my dad that you said that I'm the class terror. Rechilut, rechilut, rechilut. It's like a triple. It's between the father and the kid who said it. It's between the two boys themselves. You just caused ill feeling all around. And this is an incredible rechilut. Besides the fact that you embarrassed the father by telling him that you heard from your son that his son is the class terror. That's ona'at devarim. You said something to him that made him feel bad. That's another transgression. That's another avera. And therefore, let's get clarity over here. Step one. When Reuven speaks to Shimon about Levi, something derogatory, that's Lashon Hara. When Shimon tells Levi what Reuven said about him, that's rechilut. Because now there's going to be ill feelings between those two that you just caused. If Levi tells Reuven, hey, Shimon told me what you said about me. You hear that? Again, Levi says to Reuven, Shimon told me what you said about me yesterday. That also is considered rechilut. And therefore, no matter what the combination is, it comes down to this point. You speak to someone about someone else, Lashon Hara. You say something to someone that's going to cause machloket and ill feelings between two Jews, that's automatic rechilut. Yet again, we need to stress that our job is to bring people back together and stop saying things that hurt the feelings or cause fight and rift between Jews. Thank you for listening.